worried that so we're live now. Let's give it a little bit of time for some people to come in, but check if your comments are open.
Let me see.
Like if you go on your YouTube channel and then
oh yeah, look at the live, huh? Let me see.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll see. And if I forgot to turn on comments or something, it's totally cool. Like even if it's just on your channel, it's totally cool. This is your brewery, man. I just realized you're in your brewery.
Yeah, I don't think my comments are turned on. I gotta live chat isn't turned on. Ooh, can you see yours on your YouTube if your comments are on?
Let me look at it real quickly. This is I see that you're live. Oh yeah, and I guess I'm live too.
Yeah, it's on your channel already too.
Yeah, it is. Wow, this is trippy. This is really trippy, man. It looks like my comments are on. Let me look at this.
Somebody just on my StreamYard, I see some comments coming through. Gilgash. Are you on Jerry's channel or are you on my channel? Which channel are you coming on?
Yeah, let us know. Let us know, Gilgash. Wow, this is pretty cool.
All right, so here we go. Live. I had this on I did a live stream on Saturday, and I had the same problem. We all had the same problem where when you go through StreamYard, the software that I'm using, it's by default turned the comments off. Yeah, but so oh yeah, so you've got some people coming through on your channel.
Interesting, cool. So oh, look at this. So it actually has I'm just in my back end just looking at what I can turn on and stuff like that.
Yeah. Whoever's on my channel, I'm trying to figure out how to get my comments going. So
I see.
This is literally a last minute thing we just decided to do.
Yeah, exactly. This is cool, man. I love spontaneity. I haven't done a spontaneous talk like this in a very long time. In general, I haven't really done much on this channel just because I got other channels I'm working on. So it's cool, man. If I'm gonna do stuff in the future, I definitely want to do stuff like this.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It'd just be so much better if I could get this working. Let's see here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. Okay, I think I've almost got it.
Nice.
You were saying you think your channel is more controversial than mine? Like you got some.
Oh yeah, I've definitely explored more controversial stuff. Like I've interviewed conspiracy theorists. I've explored men's rights, MGTOW, stuff like that. That is like counter mainstream. So I think I think this channel, honestly, there's probably a sunk cost bias on my channel, and there's going to be a time and a place where I'm going to either move this channel onto a different platform or just let it go because I spread myself too thin. I explored too much stuff, and there's just too much in my history to be like, look at all the stuff he's explored. Ha ha ha! Demonetize him.
Yeah, you know what? There needs to be an alternative for sure. Like as soon as you want to explore certain topics, it really messes you up. And then, like you said, you have the history on your channel too, where all of a sudden the censorship is going to become a lot more sensitive. And it doesn't even need to be this stuff, because you know what? The China stuff is pretty sensitive too. There were a lot of people who were talking about China who got blocked off of YouTube, who got blocked off of Twitter. And it's a really interesting thing because they did this whole thing before. They had that the purge of the Chinese bots on Twitter. I don't know if you remember that, like thousands.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so they said that they purged Chinese bots, and I knew a lot of those people personally. Like they were foreigners, they were people who just were against like the Hong Kong protests. And the thing is we have a precedent for this. We did this before. They did this when they said they were removing all of these Russian bots off of the internet too. And then afterwards, the review afterwards was they couldn't identify a single one as a bot. Like one was a pensioner in England or something like that. One was like they were removing real people who were just talking about things that they didn't want them to talk about. So it does happen, and they really got to come up with some sort of an alternative platform to YouTube, I think.
Yeah, there's one called UGEtube. But I think that one unfortunately has its own problems too. So, yeah, there's going to be, unfortunately, issues with all these platforms, like even BitChute and Minds. I've gone on it, and it just unfortunately just seems like when you force people off the platform, the first people that leave are going to be the most extreme. So
Absolutely.
and it's like, so by censoring, you're almost creating more and more extremists. I made a video on this a while ago talking about it. I'm like, I found out that this channel was not searchable on Google. And I was like, dude, I don't think I'm that extreme. I mean, I like thinking about issues and talking to people, but I don't think I'm like, my personal views are any too extreme. But you know
what, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. So first of all, I've had that experience too. I've had the experience with Twitter where I was shadow banned, so my stuff wasn't searchable anymore. I couldn't even search my own old tweets. Like when I was looking for an old tweet, I would keyword search myself, and it's completely unindexed. But in terms of what you said about when they do censorship like this, you create even more extremists. I've seen this firsthand. So, like, for example, there's a guy in England named Tommy Robinson, and he's really kind of anti-Islam and stuff like that. And his group is kind of like far right. And then they got blocked off of everything. They got blocked off of Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and then they created their own Telegram group. And if you go in there, it's just gotten really scary because now it's an echo chamber. Their ideas aren't being challenged. And there's a really good debate on this by the Oxford Union called about deplatforming, about the idea of whether it should be deplatformed or not. And there was a guy named Nick Griffin who was a Holocaust denier, and they wanted to deplatform him way back when he was going to go on BBC, a BBC show. And a lot of people protested. A lot of Jewish people protested, said, "Why are you bringing this person online? He was the leader of the BNP party." And what he did was he went on the show, and when he had his ideas challenged by other people who don't agree with him, he lost all of his support. He lost his last 2 seats in the parliament, and his support went down because his followers had a chance to see him interact with other people who don't share that same idea. And so when you deplatform people and they go into their echo chambers and they're not on the same platforms anymore, it is dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. You give them the legitimacy. It's like, oh, look, I was right all along. You see, they see me as a threat, right? Even if that wasn't the purpose, it just gives them extra kind of things to say. Yeah, well, see, I was right all along, even if they were wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thing that's going on, but yeah, this is pretty cool. How many people you got on your chat? I got 100. I got 155. Hello to everybody who's joining.
I'm pretty low. I usually when I go live, I'm lucky if I have like 20.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't. There's something about notifications. Most of my subscribers, even though I have like 44,000, most of them don't get notifications when I upload anymore. So, unfortunately, really? This channel is just not on the good side of YouTube, which, it is what it is. I mean, it opens up opportunities. I just work on other stuff and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So you've got the time zone is probably working the time that we're on now too, because I've got a lot of viewers from over here. And
that's very true. Yeah, if I went live a little earlier, probably more. But yeah.
Yeah. So just to explain to the guys who have tuned into my channel, we just decided randomly to just start up a live chat. We've been connected for just like not too long, like a couple months or something like that, but we've never actually spoken face to face. This is the first time we spoke. So you've got a YouTube channel. You do. I like some of the videos you do of disseminating, taking apart those like Chinese dating shows and stuff like that. Yeah, those are good. Yeah. But what are you going to be doing on your new channels and stuff like that?
So I teach Chinese on one of my channels. So if you search Jerry Teaches Chinese, that's one of my channels. And then I have another channel I just started called Jerry Learns Business. So I'm trying to talk to more entrepreneurs, trying to talk to more people that I can learn about the business culture, because I didn't go to business school. And even though I'm kind of an entrepreneur, right? So my thought is there's a lot of holes in kind of my knowledge, real world applications, because we all know schools. I mean, what did they really teach you? So that's the channel. And of course I got my big channel, the martial arts channel. So
Oh,
those are
I
some
didn't
of
even
the.
know about that.
Yeah, I have a channel called Fight Commentary Breakdowns. It's a really big martial arts channel. So, that channel is just sticking to the rules. That channel is just, if there's one channel that's going to go viral, that's that channel. And it's cool because, this channel can be like my channel to like push the rules a little bit, right? We need to separate the brands a little bit. And that's one thing I learned early. And I think that's another reason why, even though this channel mine's a little bit censored, it's not really anything that affects me because I've got other channels that,
That's good to diversify. I've been kind of thinking about the same thing because I do like a lot of political stuff. I talk about the Hong Kong protests and things like that. And then I'll have a video of a weekend getaway, or I'll have like yesterday I uploaded a video of making how I make my tea. And it's kind of like a mishmash of things. And I've been playing with the same idea, whether I should really separate it into separate channels, even from a risk mitigation point of view. Like you said, if all of a sudden one of the channels starts getting censored or something like that, might not be a bad idea.
Yeah. And I think just for me, I always have very different interests. So for me, when I started my YouTube channel, I had another channel before this channel, and that channel was all about doing pranks. So I already had a channel that's completely different. And when I started this channel, I was like, well, this is just my rant channel. And then when I started the Fight Commentary channel, I was like, well, let's do a channel just on martial arts. I always knew I was going to separate the brands. The kind of mitigating risk thing came later because I was like, whoa, but it just happened to work out. So I'm not that smart. I didn't plan this. It just happened that I was just really distracted, had a lot of interest. And then, some of the channels are cool and other channels got me in a little bit. I mean, it's not even trouble. I mean, I don't even consider this getting in trouble. It's just, I understand you're trying to sell ads, right? And you don't want to sell ads to companies that might feel like, oh, this person, no, right? So.
Well, yeah, I think it goes further than that, though, because that's one thing. You can understand that, okay, certain advertisers don't want their ads showing up on certain content. Mm-hmm. But the whole system, the whole ecosystem goes further than that. Like I said, with Twitter, they have a shadow ban feature where they don't allow other people to see certain tweets. And it's the really weird thing, because I get into a lot of debates with people about, China versus the West and stuff like that. And people always come to the debate with this idea that China has censorship and they don't. And it's totally not true. I mean, even like the big one that really opened my eyes too was other than just this removing of all these so-called Chinese bots who are actually real people, but was when, when that thing happened when Soleimani was killed in Iraq, there was an airstrike. Yeah,
yes, that's right.
Yeah, when you were talking about that, Facebook actually came out with a statement that said to comply with U.S. sanctions, they're going to be removing anybody who's, from Iran or something like that, or who even empathizes with them. Or even sympathizes with them. I can't remember the exact word. And it's like, well, hold on a second. And then a really funny thing happened was there was a Syrian ambassador who got banned off of Twitter because he was telling the story of because almost nobody in the West knows that Soleimani was on his way to a peace mission with Saudi Arabia. That was not reported. And when the Syrian ambassador started talking about it on Twitter, he was banned. And so what he did was he moved to Weibo, and he started posting in Weibo in Chinese about what he wanted to say. And then an American ambassador started arguing with him on Weibo in Chinese. So all of a sudden, China, Weibo, became the most uncensored place in the world to have a political discussion on this topic. And if that's not irony, I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head, which is censorship happens everywhere, right? It just interests are different. So different places, there'll be different types of censorship. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because you're in California, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm in LA.
What's the situation like on the ground there now? Like in terms of this whole pandemic, what's going on? Like, are businesses opening? Are people still worried? Or like what's going
on? Businesses are slowly opening up, but I think the damage is kind of already done. And then people are still very worried. I think they're still, even though you can go out if you have a mask and stuff like that. And so I think there's like two groups of people, right? There's one group of people who's like not taking a risk at all. Let's just stay home. Let's still keep distance. There's another group of people who are kind of like, build herd immunity. I'm just going to go out. I'm not even going to wear a mask. So like when you walk outside, you see people like not wearing masks. Their kids are not wearing masks. And then there's a third group of people, of course, who are like, okay, I'll just follow the rules. I'll just go out, I'll wear a mask, make everyone feel comfortable. But yeah, it's definitely still a mess. And what was really interesting was, I live right by the beach. I wish it was still light. I could show you, but the beach is right there. And
nice.
They blocked off access to the beach. So they put these chain link fences, or I don't know what they're called, the fences that have like whatever they're called, but they put the fences up to block us from going into the park and going to the beach. And yeah, it felt like we were in a concentration camp. It was so weird because you could like see the beach. You couldn't walk or go to the beach. It was the weirdest feeling. And I think the honest truth is that if they didn't open up, they opened up, I think 2 weeks ago, I believe. They didn't open up the parks and didn't open up the beach. I think probably people would have rioted. I mean, it was getting close. Like people were already protesting. So yeah, but still, I just don't know how LA or Santa Monica, where I live, is ever really going to be the same again. So it is really worrying. It is really worrying what's going on. I mean, from the economy point of view too,
there's so many people applying for unemployment. I've got a cousin in New Jersey. She's been unemployed for months now, no work, and she can't even reach the unemployment department. She can't even reach anybody on the line. And it must be so scary for so many people. Like, what's going to happen? How long is it going to take the economy? I mean, our parents didn't go through anything like this. This is like a once in every 3 lifetime kind of thing we're going through.
Yeah. And this is the first time it's ever worldwide, right? That's the thing. It's the first time it's ever worldwide.
Yeah. Because, in West Africa, you had Ebola, you had stuff like that. I mean, H1N1 spread around the world, but it was nothing like this kind of intensity and this kind of, impact. But it's scary from an economic point of view.
Yeah. How is Shenzhen now?
It's kind of getting back to normal. My bar's open. Our business is starting to get back to normal. My eldest son went back to school. When he goes to school, before he went to school, all of the kids needed to get COVID-19 tests. Every day he goes into school, he goes through this. There's these different lines based on your height, and there's this machine that looks at you, and you stand quickly. You stand for a moment, and it says "Jinchang," or he's only heard Jinchang. He hasn't heard anybody where it says, "No, you got a flu, you got a virus, or a fever." But they check everybody's temperature. The cafeterias, when they're eating, they've got these plexiglass things between them. The school gives them 3 free masks a day. So there's still it's not normal. Like there's life has changed. Yeah. But in terms of people going back to school, people going back to work, that piece is normal. There's traffic jams on the street as usual in Shenzhen again. But there's a healthy concern about a possible second wave. Everybody's very aware of that. It's not like you don't have people here that are really saying or really have ever said it's just a flu, it'll go away in the summer. Not to name any names for anybody who said that, but here it's the opposite. They're actually saying, we've got to be vigilant. There's a chance this is going to come back. I think with the Spanish flu also, incorrectly named Spanish flu, that whatever you want to call it. It was the second wave that really got people too. So it's something to still be concerned about.
Yeah. Wow. It's funny you mentioned that traffic's still jammed, because the moment stuff started slowly opening up starting 2 weeks ago, the smog came back in LA, and now looking out at the beach towards the Malibu direction, it's all smog again. I'm like, oh, that's the one thing I did not miss, man.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, you think of all the worldwide, all of the air travel that stopped, all the industry that stopped. Like, this is like a breathing moment for the earth, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, we've had pretty good weather here, though. It's really getting warm here too. Is it pretty warm where you are now already?
It's really funny because it kind of got a little cold the past during the lockdown. It was kind of like cold here, even though in LA it's normally never cold. So I remember when the lockdown first happened and the temperature was going cold. I'm like, man, people are just gonna get sick just because people are not used to cold weather here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we got to work. We, you know, anybody who all of a sudden like feels a little bit uncomfortable, has a cough, or you know, gets a little bit of a cold, you freak out now. You know, even though it's quite characteristic when the weather's changing, you're going to pick up some stuff. But obviously, everybody's really worried about that now. But so things are starting to get back to normal there. You were, how long have you been there? But you were originally from China, and then you moved there, or you were born in the U.S.?
So I took 2 trips. I lived in Chicago for 3.5 years. So from when I was 4 to when I was about 7. And then I was in China for about 2.5 years. So I went to school in China for 2.5 years. And then I went back to America. So I lived in the DC area for about 8 years. And then I went to school up in Philly.
Oh, yeah.
College up in Philly. So, and I've been in the LA area for about 5 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's been crazy. The one big city that I've always wanted to live in that I've never lived in is New York. So that could be in my future. I don't know. But as of this point, Santa Monica, you know, it's got the beach. I'm not complaining.
Yeah. You know, there's the famous YouTuber. What's his name? Casey Neistat. He moved from New York down to California, where you are, right?
Yeah, he left New York.
He's happy with his move. I mean, it's a different vibe. It's a different. I used to go to New York every year. When I was, it's an easy drive from Toronto, where I grew up, and I've got a lot of family in Queens, New York, and a little place called Richmond Hill. I love it. So it's a city with so much character. You know, I've been in China for a long time now. I've been in China for 12 years, and in Shenzhen pretty much the whole time. Hong Kong part of the time, but Shenzhen, and it's such a new city. Like everything is so new, everything is so high tech. And when I went to New York for what was it called? Consensus or something. It was a blockchain. It was a blockchain kind of a meetup there, a conference. It was like 2 years ago, and I saw New York with a set of eyes that I never saw before, because I've been so used to this high tech city, where in New York, I stayed in this hotel that was like 100 years old. And when you walk across the floor, you can hear the floorboards creaking, and you know, you can hear the subways from the street. Like you can hear the subways whooshing from below, and the subway systems are so dirty, and that's fine though. It's just, it's got character, and it's so different from here. It's like out of this world.
I joked to my roommates that as the lockdown happened in America, a lot of the stuff that China already had like 2 years ago, they're like catching up with all the delivery services, and like Amazon Live was blowing up and stuff like that. But like China had all that. Yeah. China's e-commerce was so much more integrated into everyone's life than Amazon is to everyone's life. As much as everyone thinks Amazon is taking over in America, you just think about how Chinese people are they can order stuff, everything's going to get to them no matter what city. You order anything, it's going to get to you in like 10 minutes. It's just like there are certain things are so far ahead, and this lockdown almost gave some American businesses, you know, a lot of these things time to almost catch up to like China's level of certain things.
Yeah. I mean, even China's evolving from this. Like, I mean, all kinds of new practices are in place, all kinds of things. Like, life will change here forever. But yeah, the things just, when they pick up, like when WeChat Pay came out, everything, the adoption rate was so quick. Yeah. And I have a really difficult time imagining living anywhere else. You know, we were last year before this situation, we were at the park, and we took our kids out, and we had our badminton rackets. And we forgot the birdies. We had no badminton birdies. And so no problem. We got onto Jingdong Daojia, you know, the really fast JD.com service. And within 15 minutes, we had a guy who came to our location in the park with our birdies that we bought for like 15 renminbi off of, Jingdong Daojia. It was like amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
But, yeah.
And, you know, Amazon's trying some of that, right? Amazon has like Amazon Pantry and stuff like that. So like if you really needed groceries fast, you could get it. But we actually our house actually tried to order groceries once from one of the local markets, and the upcharge because of the delivery. Oh man, it's like, nope. I guess we're still gonna have to brave the stores. It was so much, man. It's like I think the price was like doubled or tripled or something. And if this were China, it wouldn't be like that. You know, you wouldn't just getting your groceries delivered from a store, double, triple the price. Nope.
Yeah, obviously you've got like the economies of scale here too, right?
Yeah.
That helps out. Am I coming through okay on your side, or is it coming through a little
You're
bit
coming
choppy?
through very well.
Oh, okay. I'm getting a little bit of chop sometimes when you talk, but as long as you can hear me fine, then that means
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Okay, good. Yeah. So you haven't really spent much of your life in China at all.
Yeah, I have not spent my life in China that much, really. It's the reason why, quote unquote, I analyze Chinese society really well is because I worked at a Chinese company for 2 years. If you're familiar with Jinzhi Toutiao or Douyin, American viewers know TikTok. So I worked for their parent company. So I got to see the business world in China, and it's quite eye opening because I'm not going to pretend that when I first entered the company, it wasn't a culture shock. I had to learn to quote unquote be more Chinese again. And I'm not going to ever be real completely Chinese. That's just the truth. Right? I got a lot of American Western culture in me, but it definitely, working at ByteDance helped me at least understand a lot of the Chinese cultural stuff that I didn't grow up in America seeing. I'm never going to be able to become like that, I don't think, but
Yeah. I mean, it'd be difficult. My situation is even more complex in the sense that, my father's British, my mother's from Guyana, in South America. I was born in England, and then I moved to Canada when I was 5. And so the question of identity was always a confusing question too. Like, what am I? What team am I supposed to be cheering for in the World Cup or whatever it is? But at the end of the day, I grew up in Canada, so I'm Canadian. I'm Canadian. Now I've been here in China for the last 12 years. I've become more, they have a phrase in Shenzhen, which is called 来自深圳就是深圳人. When you come to Shenzhen, you're a Shenzhen person. And after 12 years, pretty much, I'm I think I qualify. But the thing I'm interested about too, because there's a lot of cases of discrimination. Like I know the Vancouver police came out just the other day too, talking about the real concerning kind of increase in discrimination against Chinese. And in that sense, people who discriminate against others, they don't do it based on your passport. They do it based on what you look like. And have you felt any kind of rising tension or become concerned about it? Are you pretty okay in your area? What's it like?
Before I mention that, it's so funny that you mentioned Vancouver because I keep seeing news from Vancouver. I've been to Vancouver twice, right? I love Vancouver. I don't know why the city of Vancouver, like it seems to be like the coolest, nicest city, but I keep getting news like every day almost. There seems to be some kind of incident in Vancouver. So I don't know, you're Canadian. Do you have any explanation why Vancouver, this like city, it seems like the nicest city ever? Suddenly there's an uptick in this stuff.
You know what? It's pretty uncharacteristic. I mean, there's racism in Canada. There's racism in a lot of places, but to see it increase in this level, I really think a lot of it ties into this anti-China rhetoric, where there's a huge blame game going on right now, and then you compound it by things like the Epoch Times, which is like total garbage propaganda, Falun Gong media stuff that they've delivered for free to every Canadian house. And people try to keep making the distinction saying, oh, well, it's anti-CCP. It's not anti-Chinese people. You know what? Bigots and racists, they don't make that distinction. They say, okay, China is evil. Chinese government is evil. So we're going to take it out on Chinese people. They don't make that distinction. So I just think it's the propaganda. It's the extreme propaganda that's going on right now that's making even the most reasonable of societies see this spike in discrimination. That's my take. But.
So now answering your question, I personally don't see that much of it because Santa Monica's it's a quote unquote a pretty like well off area, and on top of that, I'm pretty sure Santa Monica's pretty like left leaning. So like when you have well off people who are left leaning, usually they tend to be the most sensitive in times like this. So I haven't really stumbled on anything. The only thing that I stumbled on was yesterday. It was really funny. I was walking. And this like old white lady, like I don't know how she turned at me and And because she was walking in front of me, right? And she was like, no, no, no. And I was like, wait, what? And then she moved to the side. She's like, you're so immature. I was like, wait, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? And she tried to like push me, but she didn't actually like touch me, right? Because she's not gonna touch me. So like I was like, I stood there. I was like, wait, are you talking to me? What's going on? She's looked at me, and I just kept walking. So I mean, if you want an incident, I guess that's my incident. But it's not like I did anything. I guess I was trying to pass her, right? She was walking on the street, taking up the sidewalk, trying to pass her, and I guess I scared her or something. But
yeah, that's interesting. You know what? There was I don't know if you heard about the discrimination against foreigners in China. There was a little period of time where Chinese became more concerned about foreigners because now, pretty much everything's under control here, and it's foreign governments that aren't really doing a good job with this. So they're afraid of this being brought back in. Now, there's some irony about that because the majority of the travelers coming back are Chinese ethnicity anyways, but it created a suspicion around foreigners. I didn't really personally experience anything. I heard from a lot of friends who did, like, there were hotels that didn't want to take them and stuff like that. And China hasn't been through this kind of a thing where they have that cultural sensitivity piece where they know that that's unacceptable. You can't just deny people of a certain ethnicity to come into a hotel. So it was wrong, but I didn't experience any of it personally. But I did have once when I was walking through there was a car wash place here, and they have an entrance to the parking garage. So I cut through there, and there was one customer in there waiting for his car, and he had his like mask hanging on his chin. And then as soon as he saw me, he went like this and quickly put his mask on. So that was my version of it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's so interesting to like experience it on your end too, just a little bit.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
like it's in reverse, and they haven't. You know what? There hasn't been that long history here of a lot of stuff that China needs to make up for in terms of long histories of racial discrimination, in terms of, like in Canada with the natives people or with slavery in the US and all this stuff. They don't have that context. But it's an opportunity for them to see the kind of backlash that happens from this and say, no, guys, this is not acceptable. And society has kind of been like that anyways here. Like they're not they're not afraid to group and categorize people and kind of put them into these, like, so before, after this situation, they were kind of scared of people from Hubei province, but it's not really easy to see who's from Hubei province and who's not, unless you're really good at picking up accents. But then before that, you had these stereotypes about people, like they'd say people from Henan are scammers. They say,
oh yeah, I've heard that all my life.
Yeah. So it's like they got a history of doing this, grouping people together in categories. Then they got stuff on the more positive side where they say people from Chaozhou or Wenzhou are like super business people. They're they really know how to do business. And I guess we all kind of we try to categorize things and group things, but at least our societies in the West have gotten to a place where we're supposed to know theoretically that we're not supposed to do that anymore. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but people who want to do that, they at least got to be a little bit more discreet about it. You're never going to get a hotel in Canada or the US where somebody walks in and they says, oh no, we don't take people from your ethnicity. It's going to be a little bit more.
The one exception is Koreans in LA. Koreans in LA, if you go like to the right place in Koreatown, they'll just be like, oh, this place is only for Koreans. And you'll be like, hey, that's not how it works in America. But yeah, it will happen only in Koreatown. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah.
That's pretty. It happened to me a few times. Right. I don't look Korean, and I usually don't hang around like just Asians. So I'll walk into a Korean place with a group of people and that are not all looking like me, and they'll be like, oh, all y'all, you're not Korean. They'll be like, no, this place is only for Koreans.
Did you hear about so I don't know if you know, like, in California back during the Rodney King riots, the Korean communities were like targeted a lot. They had a lot of their shops vandalized.
Yeah.
And they created these groups where you had they would look out for each other. And if one of their shops was being attacked or one of them was in trouble, they had a way to communicate with other people who would show up quickly. And a couple months ago, I saw that there was something similar going on with the Chinese community. I saw screen captures from WeChat groups where they created these groups, and if a Chinese person was being attacked on the street, they had these districts, and they'd say which district they're in, and then they were able to respond and get to the scene faster than the police could. And generally speaking, they had a driver, and usually two passengers, one who's going to be armed with a gun or whatever, something like that. Like it's like serious. Like you could make movies out of this stuff. I don't know if
Do you know
heard
what
about
cities?
I've got it in my history somewhere which specific city it was. It might have been L.A. I'm not sure, but I know it was in California, and the inspiration came from, or at least they drew some parallels to what they had when the Korean community was being targeted during the Rodney King riots.
Wow. I mean, one thing we do know is that there are gun shops in LA where it's like servicing the Asian community. So, and I remember when the lockdown first happened, there was a big run on the gun shops. You know, a lot of people felt unsafe, and they like went and like lined up not to get groceries but to get guns.
Wow, and it was like a lot of the Asian community who were feeling vulnerable.
I think it was everyone, but those gun shops that were servicing the Asian community, they got an upsurge in sales too. But what people don't realize is, everyone's panicking, right? Everyone's prepared for the worst. So even police departments are, there's so many gun manufacturer, armor manufacturers in America. So like even those companies are reporting higher sales. It's not just individuals, like police departments are ordering from them too. It's really interesting situation.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of scary too, though, where everybody is on that kind of that level of anxiety, where everybody's running out and getting guns. It's like, it's such a foreign idea to me for me to begin with.
Yeah,
like
especially you've been in China for 12 years, right? Nobody even has a knife, so.
Yeah. Even in Canada, we don't have that same kind of a gun culture to begin with. There are people with guns, but it's nothing like the gun culture down there. So it's such a foreign idea to me. And just the idea, like if I was living in a neighborhood, and I don't know, maybe you have a different relationship with the idea of it because you've grown up in the society. But if I feel like if I was in a town, if I was in a city where all of a sudden everybody around me was feeling, they were going out and buying guns because they felt anxiety, I would start feeling really uncomfortable with where I was living. I don't know. Maybe this is like something normal. Like you feel like, yeah, that's what we do when we feel like there's some shit that's about to hit the fan. We go out and get some guns.
It's funny because when you describe it that way, it doesn't feel normal, right? But I guess since I've grown up in this culture, it's just like, yeah. I remember the first time I saw a person with a lot of guns, it was a birthday party. I was at some like company, like a company event or something. I think it was a company event or basically, it was like a coworker of my mom invited a bunch of company people. So we were all hanging out in their new house. And then I just randomly wandered upstairs and the guys were like showing each other all their guns. And this guy, this was in Virginia, right? Virginia's gun law is a little bit more relaxed than like DC or Maryland. But he legitimately had like 100 guns in his, and he was like showing it off. And then like he saw me looking, he's like, oh yeah, kids shouldn't be watching this. Kids don't think this is cool. But I was like, why does he need 100 guns in his house? And that was like my first, I was 11, I think, or 12. I think I was 11. That was my first time seeing like that type of person. And he's not your stereotypical like, I talk like this kind of accent type of guy, right? He's not like that. White collar guy. I think what people don't realize, and correct me if this is wrong for any viewers that know more about this, but the majority of people that own the guns, the majority of guns are owned by a few people. So it's not like, that type of person who talks about like cooking, bacon, and like that type of person actually doesn't own a lot of guns. It's actually like probably more rich people, a certain group of rich people that actually maybe owns the majority of guns. And correct me if I'm wrong. I could be misinterpreting some of the data, but I believe that's what I read back in the day.
Yeah, I guess you probably get like a lot of hobbyists also. At that point, when you got 100 guns and only 2 hands, it's got to be, for hobby purposes or, interest, like collecting baseball cards or whatever. I don't know.
Exactly. It was like it literally was collecting baseball cards. That's exactly because I was so young. I was 11. I couldn't understand why someone would collect something this deadly. But the equivalent I made that day when I saw that was in my mind. Okay, just like some of my friends collect magic cards, this guy's collecting guns. That's his magic cards.
Yeah. I think that's what it must be. I mean, it would be highly unlikely for a kid growing up in Canada, especially if you're close to the city, to have an experience like that. I mean, I think the first time I saw a gun in my life, like actually see one and hold one, was in Michigan. When I had some family who has a cottage in Michigan, and they had like just kind of like a rifle kind of a thing. But there are people in Canada who have guns. I have a lot of friends who like going to these gun ranges where you can play around with a lot of really interesting guns, but they got to go down to Buffalo to do it. They got to cross the border, and they love it. They love that they can go down and they can shoot all these really cool, interesting weapons. But the thing that they said they love even more than that is that they have to cross the border to do it first. They're glad it's down there. You know, they enjoy it. They enjoy guns, but they're glad that it's not in Canada like that. They got to go across the border to do it. And I think a lot of Canadians are kind of on board with that thought process.
That's so interesting. I know a lot of Chinese people too. When they come over to, let's say, LA or whatever, they travel over. They usually try to shoot guns too. You know, because again, it's that thing. It's like, oh, I want to try out different guns that maybe I can't shoot at gun ranges in China and stuff like that. But I'm glad it's in America, right? That's always the thought. I'm glad it's in America.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do it. Like that's like, it's almost like guns in America are like it goes together. Of course, that's like the perfect combo, you know. So if you go there, you got to. I've done it too. When I went to Las Vegas, I used to go to CES every year. And I went to this gun range where you can shoot like fully automatic machine guns. And it was just unbelievable that they got a lot of security, obviously, but it was just a surreal experience. It was next door to the Happy Days daycare center. And it was
goodness.
just this gun range with fully automatic machine guns.
Yeah. And, it's funny you mentioned Vegas, because I remember one time I was in Vegas, I was looking at some of the things, right? There was this one place where you can shoot an M135 minigun from a helicopter. You could like go on it. You know, it costs a lot of money, and I'm sure there's a reason they're charging that much, because there's actually people that would pay to do it. But I remember I was like, wow, you know, this is Vegas. This is yeah.
I got a couple. I haven't been watching my chats, but there are two chats that just came through. One says, "Hey Jerry, I'm surprised to see you here. I know you through that movie you were in a few years ago back in Maryland. Were you in a movie?"
Yeah, I was in this. So I've been in quite a few movies. I don't know which one he's talking about, but there was this one movie where it was one of. Are you okay with me saying the F word?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it was like my fuck you to like adulthood movie where I used to work at Fox 29, so I used to work at the Philadelphia Fox station, and when I quit, I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm still young. I can do one stupid thing before I quote unquote grow up. So I was in the zombie movie, and the zombie movie was kind of like a softcore movie. I didn't realize it until I saw the final movie. I thought it was just like a funny, scary movie, but man, there's a lot of sex in it, unfortunately. So I was like, okay, I knew it was going to be a bad movie, but it's going to be like bad and funny. It turns out it was more like just bad and kind of funny, but more bad. And no offense to the director. I'm friends with the director. He's cool, but I'm just being honest as to like what I thought about the movie. So I don't know if he's talking about that movie. There was another movie.
I didn't even know you were in any movies. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And there was another one. I might have missed some old super chats, but there was another guy who says, Arthur Larson, I've seen him on my channel a lot. Hey Arthur, nice to see you on here. He says, watch a video today of a Chinese national living in Texas who owns a ranch and hosts Chinese tourists who want to learn to shoot. That's pretty cool.
I think I've seen that documentary too.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's a smart guy. Good business right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. It must be like, do you have any like family in China that come over and visit you like for the first time, and you kind of see that, or is most of your immediate family they're all in the U.S.?
They're all in America, so like that that kind of like, oh my god, oh, America's so different. I haven't seen people show those emotions in a while.
Yeah, because that's always interesting is like, when you have somebody come that is seeing your home with new eyes.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting experience because sometimes you get a chance to see your own city in a way that you never considered, or notice things that you never noticed before when somebody from the outside does. And I mean, it happened just now also when I talked about looking at gun culture in the sense when people feel anxiety, they go out and and buy guns, I would feel more anxious than that than anything else. And it's like, oh, that's, you need somebody from the outside who hasn't been in that culture for so long to look at it as that much of a crisis. But,
I'm looking at the super chat that you're talking about. I actually know the person you're talking who was asking that question. So good to see you. Her name's Grace. Good to see you, Grace. So that's a different movie. That was a Chinese movie. So it was this director who it's a little sketchy, but it was a cool experience. I got to basically produce a movie, and I acted in a few scenes. So that's the movie she's talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but it's cool. It's cool that Grace is a fan of your channel. That's awesome, man. You reach like all types of people, man. It's great, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting experience. The thing that drove me to make content was the Hong Kong protests. That's really where I got started. Is just because I thought there was a part of the story that wasn't being told, and you can imagine how many people didn't like hearing anything other than the mainstream narrative that that about the Hong Kong protests and painting it as this really righteous movement without any flaws or anything like that. So people get really offended when you challenge things like that, especially when they come with certain keywords like freedom and democracy. Even though a lot of the people who were using them use those words without really thinking about them, without thinking about what they mean. But it's kind of morphed into a little bit more. I got blasted in a Hong Kong protester group with 17,000 protesters, and they called me. They said they wanted to target me. They wanted to try to get my channel shut down and stuff like that. So they're trying to find different ways to shut down my channel, and they called me a gaoji wumao, a high level wumao, and so I've kind of embraced the phrase now. Now, I have a lot of friends here. That's my nickname now. So that's kind of been my channel. My channel's morphed into telling the side of China that people don't get to see. Are there negatives here? Yeah, there's negatives here. Not as bad as people make it out to be, but people have places to hear those things already. And there seems to be nowhere for people in the West to really hear about what is done right here, because there's a lot that's done right here. And so that's what my kind of content has morphed into.